145,000. That's the amount of people with autism that are projected to lose support from the NDIS. That will be the result by the end of the decade from changes to the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The total number of people that will be taken off the scheme is over 240,000, most of which will be under 18. River Knight is the co-founder of the Developing Australian Communities and an advocate of people for living with disabilities. Good afternoon, River.
Good afternoon. As a person with autism myself, very interested in this one.
Yeah. Did these numbers shock you, or was this what you were expecting when it was announced there would be an overhaul to the NDIS?
Well, it's a mixed bag because NDIS did something really weird when it rolled out. It destroyed all of the state-based services. So we kind of had a lot of people faced with either nothing or NDIS. So we've got a lot of people on NDIS where it may not be the best thing for them. But the budget blowouts, of course, that we've seen in NDIS have got nothing to do with the numbers of people with autism on NDIS because they're the lowest funded people on NDIS. It has all to do with case management and a lack of professional decision-making that's all been wiped from NDIS. So what we're seeing now is a return to say, you know what, instead of one option that's the most expensive, maybe we need to think about state foundational services and all those things we destroyed when we brought NDIS that also support people, particularly people who are able to function maybe perhaps a little bit better than others. It may not be as complex, but with autism, we've got to remember there's people with autism that have an intellectual disability and have serious complex support needs. And then there's people with an autism spectrum diagnosis that may not have such serious diagnosed support needs. It all comes down to clinical professional decision making.
Right. I mean, and when you talk about that kind of support, going away on a state level and now people being taken off NDIS, what kind of support are, particularly people with autism, are you expecting they'll have to go without at least until there's a solution to maybe a state-based solution?
Well, they're already talking about the numbers of people they're going to cut off, but they actually haven't figured out how they're going to decide who's disabled enough and who's not disabled enough. We have no criteria to say who's going to access it and how are they going to access it and who's allowed to access it. We actually have no plan, but here in Queensland, the department tells me that 1 October is the official delivery date of foundational services in the disability sector, Thriving Kids, and so far we have no agreement in place, no funding agreement in place, no criteria in place. No one's really sure, but what we suspect is that we're going to look at allied health services, those community services that exist that have funding to have professionals ready to go, and then people just simply go to them as opposed to have one-on-one funding they spend somewhere. And of course, Thriving Kids, where we're going to look at allied health staff being based in schools, supporting young people with early intervention, and also being able to support teachers, which is kind of nice, in those school settings. But again, we're not actually sure how much, when, who's allowed to access it, who won't access it. And in the meantime, we're already seeing people cut off NDIS, which is just not the way to go. We need to decide with professionals doing face-to-face case management what services someone needs so they're not in crisis, so that we don't end up with state services overwhelmed.
You're listening to ABC Radio Queensland. I'm Caitlin Sori, and we're speaking to River Knight, the co-founder of Developing Australian Communities. We're talking about the changes to NDIS. And when you talk about the Thriving Kids program, River, that was, the idea is it's supposed to be jointly funded between the state and federal governments. But, as that transition happens, it doesn't sound like it's going to be smooth necessarily. What does it mean for young children who are developing, who might have, autism spectrum issues, and mild developmental delays? What happens if they don't get that intervention early enough? And what impact does that have on their later life?
Well, the reason for all this is because budget blowouts freak people out. So what we see if we look at money as our motivator rather than being good, decent people is that if you don't use early intervention early, the support needs of those young people become far more. It becomes far more expensive to support someone and intervene in someone's therapy when they are older. And we can do so much more when young people are in that under 7 cohort. So when someone's younger, we have that opportunity to work on their independence so that we can get them off the reliance on funded services. So doing it early is smart rather than working hard later. So if that's our motivator money, that's a great way to do it. If we want to do it because of clinical reasoning and evidence-based practice, again, getting in early makes all the difference. So language, the ability to socialize, problem solve, learn all those independent skills is wonderful when a young person is still young. Unfortunately, what we see is by the time they get access to that, if we take too long and don't have a good plan in place, we're going to miss that window.
How difficult is it currently to receive care from NDIS? What are the kind of hoops you have to jump through just to, get support?
Well, it's hit and miss. So in the original rollout, you sat down face-to-face with the NDIS planner who actually looked at your situation and went, what do you need? What's your wish list? Where's the evidence? Now, the CEO, of course, has admitted they don't read those clinical reports or the recommendations. They don't see people face to face. They don't do case management. They don't make sure that services are doing the right thing because they actually sit down with them and check every 2 to 3 months. So it's a mixed bag. Some people are getting massive $400,000 to $500,000 a year rolled over plans where no one checks anything and does any due diligence, just gets rolled over every year. And then we see mum and dads who have a young person who desperately needs therapy and intervention that just cannot get it no matter how much they fight, how many reports, and how much they spend on allied health assessments. So at the moment, it's hit and miss. It's more good than bad, but it's too hit and miss at the moment for us to accept. So rather than focus on legislation, instead of doing a bad job for less people, let's do a good job and make sure that everyone is supported so we know, because of professional judgment, who should be getting state-based services, who should be getting NDIS, where we should mix that up a little bit so that we have both services supporting someone, and when can we get someone independent enough to withdraw funded services so you're not just stuck on it for the rest of your life.
River, what you're saying makes sense. I think we're going to be going through an interesting transition phase here, so we'll keep in touch so you can kind of keep us up to date. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers. That's River Knight, the co-founder of Developing Australian Communities. You're listening to ABC Radio Queensland.